Hello and welcome to the Her Adventures Expert Speaker Series. I'm Arden, the founder of Her Adventures, and I'm so excited for today's interview. In case you didn't know, despite our incredibly rich history in the sky, only 8% of women are pilots. That's why Her Adventures has started International Female Pilot Day, a day celebrating female pilots, past and present. And I'm thrilled to be here with Michelle Jacobson, a pilot for Delta, who's here to talk about all things being a pilot. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me. This is just a wonderful opportunity to talk to you. I'm really excited.
Thank you. I'm really excited. We've got a fun list of questions, and I'm really eager to jump in and hear your answers.
Good.
So talk about, it sounds like, so your history is that you were originally a flight attendant. Is
Correct.
That right?
That
Okay.
is correct. You know, when I graduated from high school and went out into the big wide world, my family didn't have enough money for college. That just was not an option on the table. And I honestly don't recall having any career aspirations at that age. I don't remember what I wanted to do, but I got a local job as a waitress or a hostess or something as a restaurant. And one day when that was just a slow time at work, I was perusing a local newspaper. Yes, actual holding in person a newspaper back then. And I was in the help wanted ads, and I saw a help wanted ad for a local small airline that's now no longer in business, but they were advertising for flight attendants. And I thought, oh my gosh, like most people do, wouldn't that be the most glamorous job ever, and go fly around the world? Not knowing at the time that I would be flying to places like Fargo, North Dakota, but that was fine. That was still pretty exotic in my world. And I remember it was $7 an hour. I was so excited.
$7 an hour.
It was just, I mean, I think back on this, it's just amazing. But I got hired, and I quickly learned that it takes a very special kind of person to be a career flight attendant. And I wasn't that person. You have to have so much patience and empathy with the traveling public and what they're going through. And because traveling isn't always the easiest experience, is it? Especially if you're going with kids. And, you know, it's stressful. You don't do it that often. And I thought, I liked it. I liked the lifestyle. But back then, prior to 9/11, it was not uncommon for flight attendants, when they took their break during a flight, we would go up front to the cockpit. And we'd sit up there and eat our sandwich, our little lunch, and chit chat with the guys up front. And yes, it was always guys. Never flew with a female pilot. And I remember thinking, this would be a cool job. I remember thinking, they're getting paid so much money to sit up here. And so I started asking questions. And what prompted me to move in this direction was I was sitting up there one flight, and I asked them, pointed at some instrument because I was curious. And what does that do? I'm always asking questions. And the captain turned to me and he looked at me kind of down his nose. And he said to me, I would tell you, but you'd never understand. As if it was a waste of time. And I thought, well, the more I thought about that one, because it hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
But the more I thought about it, and when I got home, the more I thought, I'm just as smart as anybody else. So I did some asking around. I found a little local flight school that taught people to fly, and I cashed out my 401k because that was the only money I had access to. And I went down there and I plopped down that money, and I said, I want to learn to fly. And that was the start of that. And now it didn't allow me to quit being a flight attendant right away. I still had to pay for that flying as I go. That's the biggest barrier or entry barrier to the field, I believe, is financial, because everybody knows it costs a lot of money to learn to fly, but I struggled through.
That is amazing. I love that. You were really, that's inspirational, right? I think so many times men will put us down, right? Oh, you'd never understand.
You never understand. You're just a silly little flight attendant, when in the reality is the cabin crew that we work with, they are amazing.
They're amazing.
There's so many different backgrounds, and there are those that have PhDs in physics, and there are those that, maybe came from a stay-at-home mom, just amazing backgrounds.
Yes. I love that it made you angry though, right? That it pushed you to then go like, well, I'll show you. I love it.
I'm going to take this.
So then can you kind of talk about, so that's perfect, right? You've set us up. You have plopped down the money. You've gone to flight school. Can you talk about kind of that path from flight school to becoming a pilot on international flights?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's very confusing to people who aren't in the industry. When I went through, I had the option, like I said, that small little flight school. We call them mom and pop little flight schools. They're usually out at your small local airport, and they rent planes and instructors by the hour. And that's how I did it, because I was paying for it as I went, 1 hour at a time. The other option for people is to go through the military. The military pay for your flight training. I may have done that had I known anyone in the military, and I didn't. I didn't have anyone to advise me on that. And I thought that was a very big commitment to make for something I didn't know what I was committing to. So, well, it wasn't good for me. It's been good for thousands of pilots. It's been a wonderful route. Today, things have changed a little bit more. Today, we find big aviation flight schools at universities, entire flight programs, where you can go from never flying an airplane to having enough hours flying that experience to get hired by a smaller airline and make your way to that major airline. And that's generally how it goes. Everything is about your experience, how many hours you have logged. And once you get to, I believe the rule today is 1,500 hours, you can be hired by an airline. And then usually it's a small one, a little regional airline, and you go on then from that airline to a larger one, like I did at Delta. And from there, the sky's the limit. After you get there, you're flying around the world if that's what you want.
I love it. What was the most challenging part of all of this? It sounds like seniority, maybe.
Well, money was actually, when I first started out, it was all about that financial barrier. It was so hard. It was working as a flight attendant or whatever my day job was, just to afford another hour of instruction in that airplane. As time went on and going through the programs, getting my ratings and getting hired by airlines, it became a question of tenacity. It's been my experience that every pilot that's ever succeeded in this industry and reached that major airline status, the one thing we all have in common is tenacity. We don't quit. You just don't. You never quit. Even in your darkest moments, you dust yourself off, you get back up, and you go back out there and you do it again.
I love that tenacity. That's a great word too.
It serves people well.
Yeah. So what does your typical work week look like? We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. Is there something even like a typical work week?
Well, not so much a typical work week. We tend to, our schedules go by the month. And we know about a month ahead of time what our schedule next month is going to be. And it is based on that seniority, how long you've been with an airline. So if you've been there forever and you're super senior, you get to go through and pick the trips you want to fly. It's wonderful. If you're brand new, you're going to get what's left over, so to speak. So we generally go by the month. And what'll happen is you'll go out for most airlines and you will fly anywhere between a 3 and a 5, 6 day trip. Mm-hmm. And then you will come home and have 2 to 3 days off, maybe 4, and go back and do it again. And it's going to be different destinations each time, most likely. And could be a combination of domestic and international, or just exclusively one or the other.
And it sounds like, so when we were scheduling this call, you were saying I might get called up. So it sounds like you also have to be on call sometimes?
Sometimes when I have enough seniority where I normally would have a regular schedule, but this was just a weird month for me. And I fell back onto that reserve because the dreaded reserve schedule where the most junior usually amongst us will sit at home and have various periods of time where we are on call for that sick call, that pilot that gets sick on the night before, that pilot who gets an offender bender, God forbid, or an accident on the way to work. And you get a call from the airline and you've got to be out there usually within 2 hours and be ready to fly that plane wherever that plane's going.
And how do you feel, I guess, having, right, it's not a typical 9 to 5, you do plan out in the month, but it sounds like your month is going to be different every time, even if you have that seniority, much less if you're on reserve. And how does
that's hard, especially if you're already a parent or you have other responsibilities there that you're used to at home. And I'm here to tell everybody that even as parents, this is possible. Both my husband and I fly full time. My husband flies for a different airline than I do.
Really?
Yes. And we've been able to make it work during the year. We have a wonderful nanny that helps us out on the 3 or 4 times a month. We might need her to come and stay overnight, but it works. It really does. If you can be flexible and work with your spouse, maybe work with some childcare, help parents, whoever you have, friends, your community, your church, whatever you have there for you, it works out.
Yeah. You have to be tenacious.
You do.
I'm loving it.
You do.
Speaking of being tenacious, you talked about this a little bit, but right, you work in a male dominated field. 92% of pilots are men. So can you tell us about kind of the dynamics of that and how it affects you?
Yeah, the world is changing, I'm happy to say. Number one,
Great.
I've been fortunate enough in the last 20 years I've been doing this. I've seen a world of change in this industry, and attitudes change. And that's a wonderful thing. I think we're making great progress in that. For a long time, I was so surrounded by men, I never thought of myself as any different than I was just like one of the guys. I was one of the boys. Yeah. And it never came up, this gender difference, until somebody else brought it up. Maybe it would be a passenger saying, "Oh my gosh, a woman pilot." And I actually had one years and years ago at a previous airline on a previous flight. I actually had one older gentleman and his wife who were boarding the airplane in Newark, and they looked up, and as people do, look in the cockpit, and they turned up there and looked, and I heard his voice say to his wife, says, "Oh my God, Mildred, did you see who's flying the plane? It's a woman and a little kid." My poor co-pilot was so young, to be fair. He looked about 15 years old. And they got off the plane, and and that was fine. It was just fine. I thought it was.
Oh my gosh.
I thought it was so funny. But you don't get to be 95 without being careful, right? So
I guess so.
So off he went. They got us but other than that, you hear stories out there. They do float around of maybe our male colleagues making it a little bit more difficult for us. All I can say to that is it's true. I've run into it over the years. It's very rare. Once you get up to the level here, I call it the level that Delta, United, American, these big Southwest, these big airlines, you don't see that so much. I've never experienced anything like that at Delta Airlines. If we get any surprise, it's from a passenger and not so much our crew members. Most of the men I fly with today, because again, times are changing, they're incredibly supportive. And most of them have a daughter or a wife that's gone into the industry after them. And they're incredibly supportive these days.
That's really wonderful to hear that things are changing and that at places like Delta, you're being supported. That's amazing.
Right. Absolutely. And the company supports us so much as well, as we keep looking to get some more women coming into the ranks, because I believe that women bring something different to the cockpit. Maybe a different dynamic in that, I don't know if it's a gender related thing, but we tend to women tend to work as teams very well. We're very good at expanding our team and reaching out to the resources we have available to us for any given situation. And that makes for a safer and more successful conclusion to any issue that might arise during a flight.
That's why we need more women out there. And that's why we're starting this day, this International Female Pilot Day.
You all are doing this just to get, because again, for women, I think these days and young girls coming up, they don't get exposed. They don't even consider this as a career. Who would? Unless you knew somebody, why would you ever have that you wouldn't think of it? Or if it did cross your mind, you'd think, oh, that's not available to me. Or I have to be good at math and science. That's the other big myth I hear. And all. I'm lucky to add 2 + 2. You do not need to be good at math and science. Those are all fallacies. What you need is mentors. And today, in the age of the internet, that's fantastic. We're out there. We're everywhere. I encourage young women. I'm always telling them when they express interest in the field, reach out to female pilots of all levels. Reach out to younger ones that are still flight instructors, or maybe they're just flying for a small airline. Maybe they're already at a major airline, but reach out to all. We love to talk. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook.
That's what I was going to ask, kind of where, because I mean, even for me, trying to highlight female pilots, it's been a real challenge. I keep calling you unicorns. It's hard to find you.
We're out there. There's actually entire Facebook boards dedicated to new pilots just starting, just learning their very first, or maybe they're just interested. They want to know where to go for that first flight. And there are entire Facebook boards that they can go to. They're all over the place and just full of women pilots at all stages of their career. And we are all just thrilled when we see somebody reach out. We love to help. We love to give tips and point people in the right direction and kind of help them around the normal stumbling blocks.
That's amazing. That's so wonderful to hear. That's what we need, right? People kind of
helping each other.
Yes, we always, one of our things we say in Her Adventures, it's not just us, but empowered women empower women, right?
Yes, that's right. That's our job as women. And no matter what our current job is, all the way from being a stay-at-home mom to various professionals, our job is to support each other as best we can and lift each other up.
I love it. That's so wonderful. Okay, on to my next question. So I want to talk about, I mean, the thing, just like you said, what everybody's thinking about, the travel aspect of your job.
Right. So, the good part.
Yeah, the good part, right? So how much time do you actually get to travel, right? Like, do you?
That varies trip to trip. Okay. You may have a trip that you fly 4 legs a day. Each flight segment is called leg. And you might fly 4 flights a day, ending up in Detroit and spending the night for 11 hours, in which case you're not going to see much of Detroit. You're going to sleep because that's all you want is a meal and sleep. There are other layovers that you might get to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico and have 24 hours, in which case knock yourself out, go have fun. Go to the beach, go do a tour or do something. International, the layovers do tend to increase, might be up to 48, 36 hours in various places. And that's just wonderful. We have, prior to COVID, and the flying's coming back international, as everybody knows and has seen on the news. Flying is coming back in a big way. But prior to COVID, and it's getting that way again, we would have these wonderful 48 hours in Beijing, and we get to go out to the Great Wall and see all that and do all sorts of local fun touristy things. And you'd have that in every city.
Do you spend time with the crew? When you say we, are you talking about your crew?
Good question. Yeah, a lot of times because your crew becomes your family during these trips and you're working together constantly. But it's not uncommon for one of us to say, hey, I need some alone time. You get it, go, and we'll go. We might meet for dinner. We might take a walk or go see some local thing together. We might do it alone. That's totally up to the person.
Yeah. It's fun though that you get to kind of have that camaraderie with your crew.
Yes, they become a family for a whopping, anywhere between 3 to 10 days, and then you don't see them again for 5 years.
Oh, really? So are
You
you together with the crew? Are you saying like if you were to fly to Beijing?
Right. We won't see when you fly together as a crew, you usually just fly that one trip together. The next trip that you show up for next week, you're going to have a whole different crew.
Wow, so interesting.
So yeah, be good with other people.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm going to change it a little bit. I just want to know, what's the most amazing thing you've seen from the air?
I thought I was trying to think of something for that because if you're a pilot, the one question you're going to get all the time from people is, have you seen UFOs?
Oh, I didn't even think to ask that. I guess I kind of did.
Common question. And I have to be, I have to be honest. I haven't, but I'm sad that I haven't. I probably would have enjoyed that a little bit.
Yeah.
But you see some amazing things from the air. I have flown over the tops of hurricanes before. When you see those pictures of the giant swirl with the eye of the hurricane underneath you. And usually the most beautiful weather is the one you want to stay away from.
Yeah.
Right? Thunderstorms and stuff. As long as you stay away from them, they are beautiful to look at. It's just kind of makes you feel small in this world.
Yes. I think that's one of the amazing things about flying is just getting up so high and seeing the earth and feeling teeny tiny.
You do. Exactly. It gives you a good perspective for your whole life. That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, that is a good one. What makes this job so special?
Oh, right now at this point in my career, as I said, I've been flying for over 20 years and I've been with Delta since 2016. And what makes my job so special is Delta Airlines. I tell everybody, friends and family, the best days of my life were the days I married my husband, the day my children were born, and the day Delta Airlines blinked and let me through the door. I still say I slipped through the cracks, but that's okay. I'm here. It's been an absolutely amazing opportunities. I was hired here in 2016 as a co-pilot on the 737. Mm-hmm. And I stayed there for about a year. And then I was able to go to the 757 and 767 and do all that wide body international fly. Then I got a short opportunity to fly the Airbus, the new A220, which is the newest airplane out there. And just, wow, talk about a modern marvel. It's just amazing. And then I was able to upgrade to captain here this last year, which has just been many times. Again, that's a seniority based thing when you go from co-pilot to captain. And there are many places that takes over a decade to do, and I did it in less than 5 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Congratulations.
And nothing to do with my skills and talents. It's a question of seniority, but really Delta gave me that opportunity. And it's just been fabulous. The flexibility I get to spend with my family has been amazing. If I need the time off for my kids, to go see an important concert, go watch an important baseball game, all that stuff that's so important to parents, I'm able to do that and be there. And then I get my breaks away from my family when I go to work for a few days.
That sounds perfect.
The lifestyle, it is a lifestyle. And the lifestyle, I've heard people describe it as addicting. Because once you do it, you can't imagine going back to a 9-to-5 office job. You
Interesting.
Can't. So I highly, highly recommend it for people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's, I guess, my last question. And you've already given so much good advice. You have to be tenacious and find mentors. For women who are thinking about this, right. What advice do you have? Any other advice or things that they should think about?
I do. The biggest one is find the mentors. Find the people out there. We exist far more than you think. And we love to help people, and just never give up on it. You're going to have obstacles the entire way. This is a career full of obstacles on the way. It just takes dedication. So you go over it, go around it, go under it, whatever it takes. Find help, ask for help, and never give up. I hear a lot of people saying that their barrier is an age barrier. I'm too old. I didn't start flying an airplane. I flew my first airplane at age 28. So it's not. The federal government requires that we retire from flying commercial airplanes at age 65, but you can go on past 65 for all sorts of private companies flying private jets around, all the entertainment industry, all that kind of stuff. So there are other options out there, and of course that's true for an entire woman's career. They may not decide to be an airline pilot. They might decide to fly cargo. They might decide to be a flight instructor and instruct professional pilots in simulators for their careers. There's all sorts of jobs related to it out there. And they might be happy flying crop dusters. Who knows? Whatever works well for them. But there's just so many options out there. Reach out to us. We'd love to help you. We'd love to have you with us. We'd like to see that percentage get up to a good 30 or 40%, please.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was so informative and inspiring, and just I really appreciate your time and your energy. You've got such a good energy. I hope that I end up on a plane with you soon.
This is why I tell everybody, always look in the cockpit. You might find one of us. We'd love to chat. We love to talk, and reach out to us. I hope I see you on a flight someday. That would be fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and everyone, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, Arden.